Welcome to another episode of the Absolute Home Service Podcast, where our mission is to help empower homeowners with the information to make the best decisions on any service they could possibly need. And now, let's join Vincent James and today's guest.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Absolute Home Service Podcast. I'm Vince Hauser. I'm one of the co-hosts. And today we're going to be interviewing Zach Settle with WeedMan Lawn Care. And we're going to find out what we need to do, what everyone needs to do with their lawns.
You being the co-host today? I want you to take the host position back. I'm a good follower on this show here. Good morning, Zach. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Thank you all for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the business. What is WeedMan?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Nicholasville, Kentucky. Started out, just kind of got a feel for as far as lawn care and stuff like that. Probably the most generic way that most guys do. Cutting grass for my dad and doing stuff like that. Playing sports, played baseball a lot growing up. So just always loved being outside. Loved being in the turf, so to speak, as far as that goes. So when I got out of school, was looking for jobs and really just trying to kind of went to something that was a little bit familiar. So heard of WeedMan, had a lot of guys from high school that had done some marketing for them, going out, collecting, generating leads for their sales team. So I was like, this looks like something that might be interesting to do. So reached out, had an interview, which was really great, and kind of stepped into a management training type of role right from the beginning. So and kind of got involved in WeedMan Lawn Care that way. But WeedMan Lawn Care is just we worry just about the turf. So we're not doing any landscaping or anything like that. We're just focusing on that green grass and trying to make it as green as possible and as weed free as we can.
That is something that makes a lot of people happy. It's crazy. You can drive down a road and you can see this nice, beautiful, luscious, flowing green grass. This makes you happy.
Absolutely, and it's the first thing that people see when they pull up to your house too. So obviously, when people pull up, you want them to be, like, wow, that looks really awesome. So having a really green grass and having some nice looking landscaping can, really make things pop and really make the house, feel more welcoming for sure.
Completely agree. What kind of services? What kind of services do y'all provide?
Yeah, so we offer a wide variety of services. Not only for our residential customers, which is kind of our bread and butter as far as that goes, but also to our commercial and equine customers. But our basic program consists of 4 fertilizers and 3 weed controls. So that's going to obviously fertilize your grass and make sure that we're taking care of the root system of the already established grasses there. But also making sure that we're ensuring that it's weed free and we're keeping all that stuff unsightly stuff that you don't want in there taken care of. But we also offer a variety of different services, additional services that we kind of see throughout the year. So grub control, which is something that we call an insurance policy. So grubs are something that some people fight throughout the year if you're not on top of them. So they can destroy your entire lawn, and make it look unsightly and something you're not wanting to really look at or other people are wanting to look at. But also offer fungicide treatments, insect control. We have a great tree and shrub program, obviously, to keep the bushes and trees around your house looking great. Also offer aeration and overseedings, as well as some soil enhancements, which is a new thing that we started doing a few years ago.
Aeration and soil enhancement. Dig a little deeper into that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so aeration and overseeding. So the technical term, I guess you would call it, would be it's a core aeration. So like you see on golf courses that do it 3-4 times a year as far as that goes. We're going in with a machine and we're pulling about 3-inch plugs out of the ground. So doing that allows for the soil to kind of expand and not be so contracted. When it's contracted, typically what happens is it doesn't really allow for grass to grow. You get some bare areas, and then in those areas you're going to see crabgrass and other weedy grasses that you necessarily wouldn't want to be looking at. But it's a great thing for the soil and just the turf in general. So when we pull those cores, it allows for air and water to really travel down into the turf and allow the root system to grow downward. So what you don't want with a hard surface is it causes grass to grow almost together. So I'm sure in some lawns you'll see where you might have some grass and then a big tuft of grass is sticking up out of there. So what happens is when the soil is really contracted, the root system starts to grow together and it kind of pushes itself upward. Where you want it to kind of everything to be growing down, so that way everything's kind of staying even and it's looking really nice and the whole turf is staying where it needs to be. But also when we come and we do that overseeding with fescue seed, it also allows for the seed to make direct contact with the soil. So we're pulling those plugs and allowing a direct line where that seed can make contact with it and give it the best chance to grow. And then, like you mentioned, that soil enhancement. So that's something we started doing a few years ago, and we've really seen some really great results for it. What it does is it gets micronutrients back into the soil that necessarily Mother Nature isn't going to provide for it. So we love rain, especially rainfall for the grass. It really helps it. It gives it a lot of stuff, but it's a lot of stuff that we aren't going to be able to find just from watering your grass just day to day. So that soil enhancement is really going to feed that lawn really quickly, allow a new root system that's just getting established to get established really quick and grow really fast. So we recommend that with our fall aerations, because the quicker you can get a root system established before it gets cold, the better chance you're going to have coming out of the spring and having a full looking lawn.
So what I heard you say you all plant fescue. Is that
Yep.
is that what everyone should have around here, or what's the preferred grass?
Yeah, so in Kentucky, in this region, fescue is really the best thing. It's drought resistant, and when it gets too hot, it doesn't die out. So when it gets really, really hot, what it does is it goes into dormancy. So I'm sure you guys have seen it in your lawns, when it gets into the summer and stuff like that, your yard will start to kind of go, start to turn a little bit brown and kind of look, a little bit weird. But what that is fescue just goes into dormancy. So once it gets above a certain, temperature, it kind of fluctuates and kind of wants to, kind of brown out a little bit. But that's what's going to give you the best chance to, crowd out weeds, especially here, in the region that we're in, and really give you the greenest lawn year round.
Isn't there like a million different types of fescue?
Oh yeah, so for us we use a Lescue brand it's a three-way mix. So it's got red fescue, tall fescue, and thin fescue in it. So that's what we use as far as that goes, and we've seen the best results for it. But there are a million types of fescue and all types of stuff, a million types of clover and all that type of stuff. There's in the lawn I'm learning something every day, which is also really cool. So
Is there one that's better than the other as far as not allowing different types of weed or grub or anything like that to grow in it?
Really, so we recommend just the fescue, and really the best thing that's going to crowd out weeds, prevent disease, and keep out insects is just having a really full lawn. So that's why we recommend the aeration, every other year, at least every other year, if not every year, because the thicker you can get that lawn, the more it's going to crowd out the weeds, the more it's going to keep the insects and the disease out. And obviously give you that full look, that thick looking lawn. So we recommend the fescue here just because it stays green year round. Bermuda grass is great for weeds. It will allow for nothing to grow because it loves to strangle everything out and be its own thing. But unfortunately here, it's only above 70, 75, 80 degrees for a short period of time. So it'll be really, really brown most of the year. But when it heats up, it's going to look awesome, and it'll look really, really green and great. And you can cut it as low as you want to, and it'll still grow. But really just, that fescue seed is really just what's going to give you, the best benefits, especially for where we're at.
And you've mentioned now a couple of times aeration. What exactly is that process?
So what we do is we go out, obviously before we come out, we give customers, plenty of heads up, a month in advance and stuff like that, so they can get their lines marked, any sprinkler heads or stuff like that, just because we don't want to cause any damage, obviously. But what that is just it kind of looks like a mower. It's about a 36-inch deck, and it's got a little, sulky for them to ride on the back of it, and it just kind of we drop those tines down into the dirt, and it just rolls over itself and just pulls those plugs, probably about 6 inches apart from each other. So, and they'll do that across the entire lawn. Obviously, we kind of stay away, from flower beds. Don't want to cause any damage and stuff like that. But we're going to plug the entire lawn as much as we can get to, and then any bare areas like around your house, around your curb strips, around your driveway. What we do is we send all of our guys with a hand stitcher, so it's a little rake with some prongs on the end of it, so they can throw down seed and rake that in there and give that the best chance to grow in those bare areas. So if they just run over that with the aerator, you're just going to see little tufts of grass kind of popping up in those areas that are a little bit more bare. So they'll go over the entire lawn, and they'll go over it with fescue seed and seed everywhere, obviously to kind of grow it and get the the middle of the turf looking really thick, but also hand stitching those edges and stuff like that, so we can make sure the grass is growing all the way to the driveway.
So I heard you mentioned on the Bermuda grass you can cut it as low as you want.
Yeah.
But with the fescue, what is it? I've had this argument with my wife many times on how high to cut the grass.
Yeah.
So, what is the optimal height that we should be cutting?
Yeah, so for this time of year in the early spring, we're recommending, you can cut it a little bit lower than you necessarily would in the summer. So About 2 to 3 inches is good for right now. That's going to be a little bit lower than you normally would in the summer. That's just going to allow for the sun to be able to get to the soil. All the treatments that we're doing, the early treatments that we're doing right now for crabgrass and weedy grasses, to be able to make sure we're staying on top of those. And then once we get into the summer, you want it to be a little bit taller. That way it can kind of kind of protect the soil from the sunlight and all the heat and stuff like that. So when we get a little bit later in the year, you want it to be just a little bit taller, just so we're making sure that we're not damaging any of the surface, making it too hard, and what we call hot spots where those weed grasses and other weeds can pop up on you.
Now, is there any specific time that you should start mowing, or is it just look at it and see, okay, it's physically growing, or how would you go about that?
And that's actually some things that I've actually been doing some research into this year. So just trying to figure out, what's the optimal time that you need to be out and cutting grass, because I drive by golf courses, and being on golf courses all the time, I
heard you're an avid golfer.
Oh yeah, so I'm seeing people mowing and doing that type of thing, but my grass just isn't quite growing like that, so I haven't quite got to mine, but I've got a couple buddies that own, some mowing crews and do that type of stuff. So they are actually going to start mowing like next week after that. So really, I think, as far as, customers and residential lawns go, I think it's just personal preference. If you feel like it's getting too long and you want to take it down a little bit, then it's a good time to hop on it. So we're just getting around and doing our first round of fertilizer right now. So we're seeing a lot of lawns starting to green up, starting to grow a little bit more than they did when we were coming out of the winter. So right now it's probably, kind of getting prime time where you're going to be firing up that mower and getting on it here soon.
Completely understand that. So fertilizer, is that a process that the standard homeowner should be doing? And I'll tell you a quick story about it on why I don't think so, and how often should it be done. So my story is, a couple years back, I thought I was going to fertilize my own lawn. I had no idea how to do it, how much to do it, when to do it, how far apart I should run the spreader, and I ended up having to mow my grass once every 3 or 4 days because I overseeded it bad.
Yeah,
and it was way too thick, was growing way too fast, and so is it an application that your standard everyday homeowner can do? If not, why would we want you to come out there and take care of that for us?
Yeah, so basically all the things that you just said is the reason that you want somebody to take care of it for you.
Building my own case. Huh?
That's exactly right. So our mission statement is, we deliver first class outdoor solutions so you can focus on life's priority. So whatever's going on, we want to take all the stress off of you having to worry about what products to buy, how much am I supposed to put down, when's the right time to do it. We want to take care of all that so you can focus on, what hobbies you got, going out, doing some hunting, doing some golfing like I like to do necessarily, or, going to your kids' soccer games, baseball games and stuff like that. So we want to take care of that and take that whole situation off you. But obviously we have people that, I know people, I take care of my own lawn, obviously. I work for WeedMan and I know a lot of this stuff, but I still like to take care of my own lawn too. So the reason you want to fertilize is because it feeds the grass and it keeps it healthy all year long. So we recommend, or we have our 4 fertilizers in our basic program, because usually throughout the year in Kentucky there's really 40 weeks that we're able to go out and treat and have an effect on the lawn before grass goes into dormancy and weeds, or it's getting too cold where we're not going to be able to really have an effect on the weeds. So our fertilizer feeds the lawns for 8 to 10 weeks. So it's a granular fertilizer where most companies might use a liquid. Ours is a granular. It's going to break down and feed your lawn. So it's a 65% slow release. So immediately you're going to have 35% that's going to be released into that lawn to green it up and get it going really quick. And then 65% of it's going to break down over the next 8 to 10 weeks. And then after that 8 to 10 weeks, we're going to be right back out to do another fertilizer for you. So you're right, it's going to promote that grass growth, and you're going to be cutting your lawn a little bit more than you might necessarily be used to. But it's really good for the lawn, it's really good for the grass, and anything that you can continue to get the root system really strong and really healthy, it's obviously going to ward out any weeds that you don't want in there.
The roots in my yard, I promise you, they were probably the strongest in Nicholasville. I guarantee you. I think I used 2 bags of that stuff, and I had a small lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you put too much down, obviously it's not a bad thing, but you can run into those situations where you're having to cut your grass.
Cause more work on myself than I really wanted to.
That's exactly right.
So if you start on a yard and it's just a god awful, it doesn't hardly have any grass, it's all weeds.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how long does it take for you to turn my yard around?
So that's what, that's the thing that we preach to all of our guys. So setting the right expectations from the beginning. So I always tell every first year customer that I have, if it's not an already kind of, full, thick looking lawn where weeds really aren't an issue, it's, hey, your yard's gonna look worse before it gets better. If you have a lot of weeds in your lawn, when we come and do that first round of weed control, all those are gonna die out and there's just gonna be bare areas there. So it'll probably take, you're not gonna maybe see the results that you're wanting this year, but I promise you by the next spring, getting into that first part of the year, your lawn's gonna look a whole lot better than it did the year before. So it takes a little bit sometimes. Now there are yards that unfortunately sometimes are too far gone where if we came and sprayed it, it's gonna be nothing but dirt. So that's why, when we go out, it's like, hey, I can take care of those for you, but then you're gonna be, you're gonna need some sod to put over top of it. So we wanna make the right recommendations, and I've had plenty of people that we've gone out that I'm like, hey, look, your yard's in just a little bit too bad a shape. I would recommend just, restarting. Let's, kill everything out, and then, whether there's sod or something like that you want to do, maybe that's the best route to go. But it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's what we tell all of our customers, just because you're going to have weeds in the lawn that we take care of, and it's going to leave some bare areas, unfortunately.
I know I've seen people in the fall where they go in there and kill their whole yard and then reseed and straw. Do you all do that as well? Or?
So a couple years ago, we stopped doing that. So
Okay.
what we did was they were called vegetation kill outs, and then we would power seed with kind of like a verticutter that you might see. So we would go out and we would do those things, but it was just, the results from it weren't that good. We were killing out all of the grass, and then we were tearing up the yard, so it was allowing for weeds to grow and stuff like that. And it was still getting some results that were all right, but it wasn't the quality that we wanted to stand behind and stuff like that. So people do that where they do it. Hay, I would stay as far away from hay as you possibly can if you're putting it on your yard. Hay, you don't know where it comes from. It can come from anywhere. And last year I had about 25 customers that had MetroNet digging their yard from where MetroNet was getting around and stuff like that, where they laid hay, and then right back in that area was just weedy grasses, crabgrass, and all the grass that they had established before was completely gone. So if anybody does tear up your yard or you tear up your own yard, I would highly recommend staying away from hay. Just put down seed, and just put down as much seed as you possibly can. That hay is you're gonna be fighting that for a long time. So.
No, you're bringing up the crabgrass, and of course we all know that a lot of these big box stores and stuff, they bring in the chemicals that are supposed to eliminate the crabgrass and stuff like that.
Yep.
Myself, I have noticed that number one, it doesn't really work. It's not very effective.
Mm-hmm.
But is there one that you would recommend
Mm-hmm.
that we could use, for spot treatment, or is what you with WeedMan offer, is that going to help control that situation so I can stop buying all those big box products?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to do. All of our products are proprietary products, so it's not anything that you're going to be, we like to say over the counter that you're going to be able to buy at the store. You can buy, some weed control and stuff like that, and spot treat yourself, but it's really all about the mix rate, how much you're putting in, how much water are you adding with that, and making sure you're not putting too much, because obviously too much, you're going to kill everything that's around it, not only that weed, and too little, you're not going to have any effect on it. So the pre-emergent that we use, which is what's for crabgrass and other weedy grasses, we use two. So it's called prodiamine, but what we use is in our fertilizer, it's already mixed in there. So for that first round of fertilizer, when we come out and we put it down, it's got our kind of first round to go ahead, get a jump start on it, and get it down. And then when we come into our first round of weed control as well, there's also prodiamine in that, which is that pre-emergent, and we use that as well. So the big thing in that is it's called as active ingredient, and so active ingredient really is for that pre-emergent it's like almost like a shield for the lawn. So it's going to make sure crabgrass and weedy grasses aren't growing up until August for us. So that way in August, that's when we start our fall aeration and overseeding. So we're going to be tearing up the yard anyway. So we want to make sure that it's not going to harm our seed from germinating and being able to give the best results for the customer.
Now, as far as like the aerations, the seeding, fertilizing, different things that you all do, does any of that have any effect or negative effect on the mowing company that's going to come out, or myself going out and mowing it? Do I have to, wait a certain amount of time? Can I mow immediately?
Yeah. So the fertilizer is you can mow right after. It's heavy enough where when you run over it, it's going to fall down to the very bottom and start to get into the soil. So that's really not anything you'd ever have to worry about. We joke all the time. You could take our fertilizer and pour milk over top of it and eat it. It wouldn't taste very good, but it's not going to do anything for you, and everything's all right as far as that goes. But The weed control, we recommend not mowing it for 24 hours. They're just because we have some products, sometimes they like to act a little bit funky and leave a little bit of residue for a little bit longer period of time. And then when you cut grass and you're kind of blowing your clippings, can blow into your mulch beds and cause some issues as far as killing out some bushes and stuff.
So would it be
like that.
better for you to come in right at, like on a fresh mow or before you mow?
Either way, it really doesn't matter. Fresh mow is fine, but I would prefer to come out before you mow because we're going to be able to see where the weeds are. If you just cut your grass and you cut off all the top of the dandelions and some of the stuff that's out there,
I want you to find those.
That's exactly right.
Those need to be going.
That's right. So I would rather us come out and do that. We have customers all the time. It's like, I want to mow first, and it's like, look, let me do this and then you can mow tomorrow. So we recommend, 24 hours for a mow. But as far as getting on it, kids getting out, dogs getting out, when we spray it, we just recommend waiting until it's dry. So in the summer, that may take 30 minutes to 45 minutes. But kind of in the spring and the fall, it may take, about 2 to 4 hours before it gets completely dry. So obviously don't want any residual effect, people bringing anything in the house or, hurting anybody for sure.
All right, on on a lot of the, especially the yards that you all or others treat, I see some of these beautiful patterns or they mow, in the yard. How does that work?
Yeah, so you can get striping, striping your lawn with just your mower that you have. So as long as you're cutting it, you're cutting it a certain way and kind of sticking to that pattern, you're going to see the stripes just from going, going back and forth, whether that's horizontal, vertical. But really, if you're wanting to get those really, prevalent striping that you're seeing, on baseball fields and all, athletic fields and stuff like that, it's actually kind of like a roller mechanism that you can attach to your mower. And you can, just mow your grass the same, but it's obviously just going to make those stripes a little bit more prevalent and give you that good look.
And then, I'm not a yard aficionado by no means,
Yeah.
but is it bad? I mean, I always mow my yard the exact same direction every single time.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
We recommend mowing in a different way every time. Now, I'm not saying you got to go vertical, horizontal, diagonal, and then diagonal back the other way the next time you mow it. Just going vertical and horizontal is really good for it. What that does is it allows for the grass blade to kind of not get swayed over in one way too far. So it keeps it growing straight up and staying healthy and doesn't damage the grass blade. And then the big thing that we really recommend with all of our customers is making sure that you're sharpening your mower blades, once to twice a year at least. The sharper the blades are, the better cut you're going to get on the grass. If you've got, dull blades, what it does is it can shred off the top of the grass and allow for diseases and other things to kind of work its way into the yard and, cause for, either grass to kind of die out or just, cause some unsightly ground spots that you're not wanting to look at.
What about mulching versus bagging versus just letting it fly?
So if your grass gets really, really tall or you're going to be leaving a lot of stuff in it, I would highly recommend picking it up. What can happen if you leave clippings on the lawn that are, for those fresh clippings is it causes those areas where it's laying at to be shaded. So the grass isn't getting the sunlight that it needs nor the moisture that it needs to, to grow healthy. So what it does is it'll actually, almost like when you set a pool in the backyard that, you might buy, like a kid's pool or a trampoline, it's going to leave kind of like a little, little brown ring in that area. It's not to say that it's died out, but it's just going to cause it to probably go into dormancy. So, I would recommend picking them up or just making sure you're staying on top of it so you can make sure it's staying where it needs to be and you're not having to do any extra work for yourself.
Are you a mulcher or a bagger? I know you're not the kind that lets it fly. I know you're not.
I am a mulcher.
You're a
I
mulcher?
believe. I think that's what I have.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, take a step back. I have a mulching blade, but it still flies.
He's a mulching flyer.
Mulching flyer, there you go.
That's a combination mower.
Yeah, I am a flyer. I let it go.
Let it go. Yeah.
Let it go.
No. As long as it's not too much, I was going to say. I mean, I'm more of a mulcher the same way, so I try to stay on top of mine. Just try to, that way I can only do it one time and not either have to go back over it or have to, pick up any grass clippings.
I definitely won't do that anymore because one thing that I did notice last season, and then with you just mentioning the fact of it, causing having the shaded areas with the clippings that are laying there, I noticed last season that every time that I mowed, that wherever that grass landed, I was having issues in the area. And then also, if you mow and it's like the moisture is higher in the air or something, and all the clumps together in one spot, that made it even worse. So
exactly.
There was a couple of times where I was this kind of person, I would just mow over it again and spread it out a little bit more, but I would rake it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely I'm gonna I'm gonna start trying to keep it clean.
So,
The more we learn on this podcast, the more I'm like, I need to take care of my stuff better.
So I'm guessing that a method I use, the one that grow to about 10 inches tall and cutting it down to 4 inches, is probably not the best method.
Yeah, you're gonna cause yourself a little bit more work, so I would stay away from it if I could.
having to use his tractor to go out there and mow his garden. His lawnmower won't do it. So when should I know you said what are y'all about 40 weeks out of the year? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so we treat generally about 40 weeks out of the year. That's about as long as our season will let us run. Just before, like I said, it gets too cold, grass starts to go into dormancy, and then just our weed control won't have an effect on the weeds.
Offer, do they like complement each other? For example, you want to come out every 6 weeks to do the alternating the fertilizer and then the seeding, right?
Yeah.
Or weed control.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get an aeration or the flea and tick or anything like that, that won't mess up our program, and you can add them in there.
Yeah, and so it all works together, and none of it's gonna kind of contradict one another, so to speak. So the reason that we alternate like that is because it feeds the lawn, it's promoting healthy grass growth, and then in between those feeds, we're coming out there and taking care of whatever weeds have maybe popped up since we got it, had the root system kind of stimulated and got it going. So, and what our weed control does is it's almost like a human growth hormone. So we'll come out and we'll spray it, and you might see a dandelion that was maybe this tall that's now about this tall, but it's curled over on itself. So we're coming in, and then like with the aeration and stuff like that, we're always making sure that the spacing in between those, like whether it's if a person had a weed control before that or is scheduled for a weed control after that, making sure we're coming at the right time, not to hurt ourselves from getting any seed down to establish growth or damaging any seed that was just put down or anything like that. So always making sure it's really just about communication with the customer, and also staying on top of it, making sure that we're doing the right things.
And so you recommend that 6 week mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I am part of the typical homeowner population where I forget to do things.
Yeah.
How do I go about remembering to do that? Do y'all have to call me, or?
So the way that our services are set up, you can be a notify ahead. So we'll put you on there either to call you, shoot you a text, or shoot you an email, let you know we're coming. Or if you don't want us to bother you at all and you just want us to come out there and take care of your yard, we can do that too. We don't have to get in contact with you. We'll just make sure that as long as you're paying your bill, we'll be out there to take care of whatever needs you have. So. Really, we do that just to let you know. That way, and I recommend every customer that I sign up, I put down as a call ahead, just because I want you to know we're coming. And if something happens that day where you're not going to be there, forgot to unlock a gate, or maybe the dog's out and you forgot to put them up, that way and it can be like, hey man, you can't come today. I'm going to need to reschedule. So I like to do that just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. exactly when we're coming, and we're staying. We're on the same page as far as what treatment you're having, and there's no miscommunication there.
Now, on your 6 week treatments, whether it's the fertilizing or the weed control, how long do those typically take?
As far as like
how long you're out there?
Oh, how long? Yeah. So for typically our fertilizer right now, if it's a residential lawn, let's say about 3,000 to 4,000 square feet, it's probably going to take our guy about 15 minutes to do the lawn. But also a big thing that we push for our guys is what we call getting uncomfortable. So new customer acquisition. So they're going to go out and they're going to treat that yard, but then they're going to either talk to the neighbor that's outside, the person that's walking their dog, or they're going to go knock, the neighbor's doors and a person across the street. So that usually, if you include all that, you're looking at about 20 minutes per application when we're out there. But physically on the lawn, I'd say we're probably on the lawn for about 10 to 15 minutes for that type of lawn. But as the lawns get bigger, obviously more time that the guys are going to be on there and getting the stuff down for you.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about, something that like homeowners do, whether it doesn't have to necessarily be a chemical, but just a certain way that they do anything that would be detrimental to their yard or weed growth or anything like that?
Really, as far as like customers doing or people doing anything, don't put too, obviously I really recommend hiring a professional, or at least asking a professional some questions. Just because if you use too much, like I said, if you use too much chemical or using too much product, like you did last year, it can cause for yourself to have to mow every other day, or if you're putting down too much, weed control or something like that, you can do damage to the lawn, and obviously then you're going to have to spend more money to get it fixed. But what I tell all customers that are coming on, hey, look, you're going to need to fertilize your lawn 4 times a year. We recommend you do it at least 3 to 4 times a year. So if you're going to buy a $50 bag of fertilizer or whatever at Lowe's, you're going to end up spending about $200 anyway. why not pay somebody $300 and then you're not having to worry about, spending the extra time to go to Lowe's to figure out what you need, and also worrying about how much to put down at the right rate, and am I doing it the right way?
There's a lot of value on professionalism.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if I decide that I want to, get a service like you, I mean, how does the payment portion work? Is it a one-time a year? Are you billing monthly? How does that work?
Yeah, so we offer 3 different kinds of payment, which is great. So we want to make sure that we're being conscientious of our customers and making sure that we're not putting any of our customers in a bad spot. So where we're at is so we have 3 different kinds of payment options. So one is called Easy Pay, and that's just pay as you go. So every time we come out, we do an application, we'll bill you the next day. There's also equal monthly billing, so it's broken up into 10. We take the total price that you're going to pay and break it up into 10 equal 10 equal payments over the year. So obviously people who maybe have a little bit of a being a little bit kind of on a fixed income or something like that, allows them a little bit the ability to have the lawn care but not feel like they're paying an arm and a leg after every single service. And the best way, what I recommend doing, is prepay. So, and when you prepay for the entire season up front, you get a 10% discount with that. So it's going to save you money anyway, and it's a one-time payment. You don't have to worry about anything else as far as that goes. But those are really the 3 ways that we take that.
Now, as far as the estimates goes, I want you all to come out, take a look at it, give me my best options, so that you can professionally tell me what I need to do and how I need to move forward. How does that process work? Do we need to call in? Can we, schedule something online? Basically, if I'm wanting you to come out today and give me my options, how do we move forward from here, and what's that process look like?
Yeah, so we've got a variety of different ways that you can find us. Google, obviously, if you search us on Google, we're the #1 rated lawn care company in Lexington, so we'll probably be that first one to pop up there. You can get on our website, request a free quote that way. They can email it to you, or call into our office. So
what's your website?
www.weedmanusa.com. So that's our website, or you can call our office number. It's 859-425-4040, and anybody that's in that office would be more than happy to get you a quote. Or we also, another thing that we use is called Podium. I'm not sure if you guys are probably familiar with that. Yeah, so that's a big way we push reviews for the company, and a way we're able to get in touch with customers outside of seeing them at the door or kind of talking to them over the phone. So we have a lot of customers on there, and that's a great way for us to also customers to reach out to other people. So we've got a link on there where they can send it to friends, family, people that might be interested in it. And that's another way we're able to get our name out there. So you can find us on there, find us on Google, or you're more than welcome to give us a call. And like I said, we'll send somebody out, take a look at your lawn, and come up with the best game plan to make sure you're getting the results that you want.
Now, when we call somebody into the office in there, and you said that anybody in there would be able to help us out, are they giving us a quote over the phone, or are they going to send somebody out to take a look at it?
Yeah, so they can give you a quote just to give you kind of an estimate up front.
Ballpark.
Yeah, just a ballpark. So they'll, like I said, everything is kind of based off the square footage. That's going to depend. That's going to really determine your pricing. So they can give you, hey, you're looking at this much square footage. This is what the pricing is going to be. But then if you're worried, hey, there's a certain area that I want treated, or I want somebody to come out and look at it, that's what I'm there for. So they'll set up an inspection, I'll come out, I'll give you a call before I come out, I'll come by, check out the lawn, see what areas that maybe either something we need to avoid, or we need to make sure we're paying special attention to get you what you want as far as what you're paying for.
Is there a consultation fee, or is it a free estimate?
Nope, completely free estimate. So no obligation. We're more than happy to come out, and if you don't sign up, you don't sign up. But we always, like I said, always leave my business card or leave a flyer with you. So if you do change your mind later on, it's something you can stick in your back pocket and reach out to us when if the times change.
Why would a customer choose you over a competitor?
So if it were priced, they're probably not going to. So we are the most expensive lawn care company in Lexington, and we don't shy away from that. What we say is, cheap products, you get cheap results. So we're constantly reinvesting in our guys to get them the training to be licensed professionals. So every single one of our technicians are licensed by the state of Kentucky. We're also constantly reinvesting in new equipment that's going to give the best benefit and make sure that we're doing the right thing every single time. So we're constantly reinvesting in the business, reinvesting in the guys, but also we're making sure that we're changing up our products every year. Like I said, I've been there probably 4 or 5 years. Every single year we've changed up our weed control, just because there's always new stuff that's coming into the market that might be better than what we used before. So really, what separates us is the free reapplications, the 48-hour service calls, and like I said, it's going to be more expensive, but quality speaks for itself. So.
I would really put a lot on the pride just the determination of the team too, because I've heard you in here mention like, oh, well, if you didn't know it, you're going to find it out, and talking about how you're going to do research for this. And
Yeah.
I just don't think that your standard company is going to do something like that. And then, Vince and I can really attest to that. So, as you know, Vince is the owner of Absolute Overhead Door Service.
Yeah.
So we do garage doors and stuff like that. And in a Louisville location doing the HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. We're in the service industry as well.
Yeah.
And we're right there with you. Quality, pride.
Speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, you came by my house when I tried to fix my garage door myself, and you saw how that went. So, so I completely agree. I can promise you, if things that I looked at before I kind of got into the service industry, as far as doing it myself, it really, when you have a professional doing it, you get the results that you're actually looking for. When you kind of either try to do it yourself or try to take the cheap route, you're not gonna get what you're looking for.
You mentioned that all your guys are licensed. What is that process like?
Yeah, so what it is so the state of Kentucky has a test that they have to take. So what we do is we have sort of somewhat what we call it like a little study guide. It just gives them a lot of information about what to look for in the lawn, what things are, and typically some of the questions might be on there, like you pull up to a yard and there's a garden. Do you spray the rose bush or do you spray the grass? Like it's pretty straightforward as far as that goes. But just teaching the guys the right process, so what to look out for, what things to avoid in the lawn to make sure we're not causing any damage, but also the proper protective equipment, that they're keeping themselves safe, but also keeping the customer safe as well.
That's something that they have to renew.
Yes.
Like every once a year, twice a year.
So the way that works is it's on a 2-year span. So it's once you take that test, you're good for 2 years. But the way that you can keep your license renewed and not have to take that test again is it's called CEUs, and I don't know what the actual name is for that.
Continuing education credits.
There you go. Yeah. So those are something that we have to do as far as sitting in classes and learning more about the weed controls and stuff, like the different weed controls, different type of grasses or different type of products that they're going to come out with. So
I don't know why you had to bring that up.
Yeah, right.
He's full of just information.
Well, there you go.
And I didn't even have to look at him, and I can see the smile over here. I knew that. Did you see that?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So I do those. I have to get 12 credit hours every single year to make sure that I keep my license up and stuff like that. So we're constantly doing that stuff, and also guys that have been with us for a while that are kind of in elevated roles. Those opportunities for them as well to learn more, learn more about the industry and learn more about the company and what we're doing.
Is there any governing body that comes out and go, hey, let me see your license?
Yeah, so the EPA, so the Environmental
Okay.
Protective Agency, they're out, and guys, obviously, kind of COVID, we don't see them as often now, but I've had plenty of guys that'll just be out treating, and the person will walk up on you, they'll make sure that you're wearing gloves, wearing the right stuff, and doing the right thing, and then they'll say, hey, can I see your license, and make sure that it's up to date. If not, that is a hefty fine that we have to pay. So we'll make sure to try to stay on top of that so when they're coming out.
So the chuck and the truck kind of competitor, most of them I'm assuming are probably not going to be licensed.
Yeah, and that's kind of my philosophy on it. I see guys that get hired on True Green that are treating the next day, and there's no way that they're able to get that because it's a process. I mean, it takes us sometimes we have to get temporary licenses, and then you have to set up the time to send the guys out there to get them tested. So I would almost guarantee that a lot of those people probably aren't going through the full process of teaching the guys and taking the time to do that. And we do just because, like I said, that we're the most expensive, but we want to make sure that the quality is there and that the customers are getting what they're paying for.
Is there, with that test, and the reason I knew the continuing education is we have, with HVAC and electric and plumbing, they're all state licensed, so it all requires it.
Yeah.
And so we are very familiar with that process. But does it require like on the job training? Do you have to be with somebody for so long, or or if I can go tomorrow and pass my test and I'm a fertilizing applicator?
That's exactly right. So most companies that we see will just hire guys and put them in a truck and send them out. What we do is when we hire guys, they're in a truck with a senior technician who's been there, knows the process, we can trust, and is also not going to just train them on what to do in the yard, but is going to make them knock doors and make them understand that the only way that we're going to continue to grow and create opportunity for ourselves is by getting out there and pushing and continuing to grow. So they're stuck with one of those guys and it really just depends on the person. So some guys can pick it up in 2 to 3 days. Sometimes it takes about a week. So those guys are in a truck until they learn fully the process. And the other thing is, every single one of our trucks have 5 cameras mounted on them. So there's a camera inside the truck. There's 2 cameras on the outside on either side. and there's a camera pointing directly in front of it and a camera pointing directly behind it. So quality control is something that we're on top of 24/7. So we have strictly a guy that is behind the computer, watching them all day, every day, making sure that they're doing the right thing, they're on the lawns, doing it the right way, not cutting any corners, and also being safe when they're out there. If they're driving a huge truck that has 274-gallon tanks in the back, you're a speeding tank. So the big thing is making sure that we're being safe out there. So that's how we make sure of it. And then once our guys get out there, I'm always out. I go and do ride-alongs with guys every single day. So checking on them, seeing if the process is there, but also coaching on the sales, knocking some doors with them, and trying to help them, be successful. So they're stuck with those guys, and then we're constantly checking on them, whether it's me coming out and seeing you in person or somebody kind of watching the cameras and making sure that you're doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
Well, see, and that will more than enough. It kind of really explain and validate your pricing as well. Y'all aren't just going to shoot somebody out there and say, here's a nozzle, spray this. You're taking the time to develop and train and, make sure everybody has the proper techniques and stuff, and then you yourself want to stop by and help them out. It speaks volumes to the type of character not only you but your team has. And
and then even yesterday, so we had some rain that we were fighting, so we took yesterday and like we talked about, those weed controls are going to be starting soon. We took half the day to go ahead and retrain all the guys that have been here before, that have done it before, but also training the new guys to make sure that they're comfortable with it, so when we get out, we can hit full steam ahead, not be taking any steps back or taking any time to kind of train anymore.
What's the determining factor, like when you mentioned rain, so if it rains till noon today, are you going to treat at 1 o'clock or
yes.
what?
So it really just depends on, so with the fertilizer, it depends how hard the rain is. So the fertilizer we're able to put out in the rain as long as it's not a torrential downpour. But if we do pull up on yards that have standing water, our guys are going to make sure to not do those yards, let the customer know what's going on, and then we'll get them rescheduled. Obviously with water and stuff like that, if that fertilizer kind of gets in there, it'll all float to one spot and then it'll end up burning the lawn. So it's really just kind of making sure that we're going to be able to get out, the lawns aren't going to be too saturated, not only for that, but also to make sure, guys aren't going to get hurt falling on lawns, because we've got guys that are treating on hills that are like this, right. And then also making sure they're not doing any damage to the yard either. So we have a residential guy who's on a machine that does our bigger lawns for us, so those type of things, we want to make sure we're not putting them out there causing any damage to the lawn, and we're having to go back and obviously give some more, do some free work for them later on in the year.
Okay. Well, I've learned a whole lot about lawns today, a lot more than what I thought I would learn. But so what? I think you may have touched on it earlier. But what's the best way if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you or with WeedMan? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So like I said, you can go online to www.weedmanusa.com, and you can find all your stuff on there if you have any questions as far as who to get in touch with or where your local lawn care provider might be.
Okay.
You can also reach out to us at 859-425-4040. That's going to be our office, and they're going to be able to answer any questions for you. But also, I'm in the customer service industry too, so my email is zach.settle@weedmanusa.com. You're more than welcome to email me, and then my number is 859-913-0674. You can call me or text me. I'm more than happy to come out, take a look at the lawn, or answer any questions that you have. So I've got people all the time, that podium app that we talked about, that reach out there just to ask questions that we talk to on a constant basis. So even if you don't sign up, I'm more than happy to answer any questions for you that might help you make a right decision, so you're not, your yard's going to look the way that you want it to.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in, Zach. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for having me.
You got anything else, James? Or
thanks for sharing your knowledge, your expertise in this area, and taking the time to come in here and educate all of our homeowners and listeners that we have in here, and we greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for listening.